Okay, this is an example of a multi-step equation that we have on our next worksheet. You can see it's quite elaborate. We've got distributive property, we've got a constant, we have, on the other side, we have another distributive property we have to use, and then we have another constant, and that's plus 266. It's just kind of hard to see, but anyway, that's what we've got. So the first thing we want to do is remove our parentheses. After that, we want to collect like terms. And if we do our algebra correctly, we should end up with a variable term on the left plus a constant. Sometimes those constants will go to 0. Sometimes they won't. So if the constant goes to 0, I would just end up with a variable term. And on the other side, we'll usually have a variable term plus another number, which we call a constant. So let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and do this. And remember, before you start your solving steps where you're taking things to 0 and taking things to 1, you have to have this elaborate equation. It has to be simplified down to this. Now, one thing that will always tell you if you're doing your algebra right is the fact that your equation is getting simpler as you go. So negative times a negative is a positive, so 14x. A negative times a negative is a positive. That gives me a 10, and I have a 2x. We'll collect those like terms later. A negative 5 times 5x is a negative 25x. And then I have a plus a 30. And then I have plus 226. There we go. Okay, now we want to collect like terms. We've done this already. Let's collect like terms. I will add these two like terms together. That will give me a 16x plus 10. We add these two terms together. That'll give me a 256. So negative 25 plus 256. And so again, you know you're doing your algebra right because it flows really nice. Maybe you might mess up on a sign, but you know, just be careful with it. Go slow and be very deliberate in your math. So make sure you go, this time I would go back and I would check all my signs. That's a positive, because most of the time that's where you're going to make a mistake is on your sign. So that has to be negative, those have to be positive. Negative times the negatives. You multiply same sign, it gives you the positive. Multiply different signs, it gives you a negative. Okay. All right, now let's go ahead and start our solving steps. I'm going to take this negative 25 to 0. I'm going to add 25 to each side. So this doesn't cancel out. A lot of people says it cancels out. You can say, okay, it cancels to 1. Really what you're making it do is go to 0, so it's really not canceling. It goes to 0. 0 doesn't have any value. That's why it's gone. It doesn't cancel. So 25x, I add those together. It looks like I'll get a 41x. Now I've got to take care of the 10 here. I want the 10 to go to 0, so I'll subtract 10. It gets me back to 0. I'll do it to the other side. Gets me to 246. So now look at the equation that I have. I have 41x equals 246. So now the idea is this. I want to make something go to 1. Well, we all know anything divided by itself is 1. So if I take 41 and I divide it by itself, I get 1. So the reason why we divide this is not to get the x to go away. We do it to get the x to go to 1, the coefficient in front of the x, because I only want to know the value of 1x. I don't want to know the value of 41 of them. So the reason why we divide is to get the coefficient to 1. Okay? We don't divide just to divide. We're doing it to get it to go to 1. And then we end up with 1x. That's the reason why you do it. So anytime in math, we're constantly trying to make something go to 1 or making something to go to 0 to try to make our equations easier. Now, this last equation that we have is the easiest equation that you can get because that is x. It's just 1x. It's not 41. It's not 100 of them. It's just 1. Now I'm going to take my calculator. I'm going to go to 246 divided by 41, and I get 6. So the answer to this problem right here is 6. So there's lots of equations on this worksheet to do, so just take them slow. If you get stuck, make sure you raise your hand and I can help you out, and maybe check your signs if you're getting something that's a little bit screwy. So go ahead and start on this worksheet, and I appreciate your attention, and thank you.